line, it's probable that their current map will be found invalid under the Peatway decision. Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Dhillon, for being here today. We have, over the course of time in our country, seen that a lot of people have worked really hard for a long time to try to divide our nation along racial lines. Now, history may not repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And in nearly every era of American history, people who have done this, perhaps sensing deep down that this is wrong, that it's just fundamentally wrong, try to justify it. And almost invariably, they will couch it in terms of this is better for everyone, in terms that make it sound charitable, kind, it's for everyone's good. That was the case, for example, in Brown versus Board of Education. The defendants in that case, defending their own pattern of de jure racial discrimination, said it's okay because our subjective motivation for doing this is benevolent. It's not malicious. We think this is best for the educational experience. And yet it's wrong, and yet it's also contrary to the direct terms of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, and since then it's been made doubly illegal. It's been made in violation of a number of federal civil rights laws. Now, one of many more recent modern examples of this attempt to divide American citizens on the basis of race involves the use of disparate impact policies. Policies that in many circumstances effectively encourage racial hiring quotas and erode equal opportunity of employment. When you're doing that, you're violating the law, it would seem to me, because you're treating people differently on the basis of race. And that is something that Title VII in the employment context prohibits. It's why I introduced a bill called the Restoring Equal Opportunity Act to codify President Trump's executive order banning the use of these disparate impact programs that themselves end up imposing de facto racial hiring quotas. How, in your view, has this concept of disparate impact and the use of disparate impact policies undermined equal opportunity in hiring?
Senator, what we've seen, and I've been a civil rights lawyer for over 3 decades now, is that the well-meaning quota-based systems that you described have resulted not in equal opportunity for individuals, but sort of a group form of justice that is more of a Marxist concept, and it is frankly inconsistent with our Enlightenment-inspired constitutional values that guarantee equal opportunity for every individual. And so I think that is really the philosophical difference. If you believe in equality or equity-based outcomes as opposed to individual rights and opportunity, that is where the distinction falls. And our civil rights laws are clear. And as recently as this year, since I've been in office, in the Ames case, the United States Supreme Court has reiterated that every individual is entitled to equal consideration under the law under Title VII, and not simply have a higher burden of proof because they happen to be a majority plaintiff.
Right, and people in that circumstance can make determinations, hiring determinations, for example, on the basis of a whole range of criteria. But there are some criteria that are inappropriate, and race is perhaps chief among them. What are some examples that you have seen of employers or of universities misusing race-neutral civil rights laws in order to justify discrimination?
Well, Senator, you see so many examples of racially exclusive scholarships. You see hiring opportunities or programs in both faculty as well as other staff that require a quote-unquote racially diverse pool at every step of the hiring process that effectively at multiple levels excludes qualified individuals from being able to qualify and compete and get to the end of that process. But you even see today, after all of these civil rights laws and all these Supreme Court precedents, blatantly racist ads from some of these institutions of higher learning soliciting input from so-called disadvantaged minority groups. And these are illegal. I mean, you're also seeing in response to Students for Fair Admissions and other cases, video requirements in applications now that bring back the racist attach your photograph to your job application, which allows racial discrimination. So that's something that we need to look at eliminating as well, Senator.
And in the context of law firms specifically, well, law firms are one category of employer that you would expect to be especially aware of developments in the law. What have you seen from among law firms in terms of their willingness to follow federal civil rights laws as they've been interpreted and clarified in recent years by the Supreme Court?
Well, Senator, I left the big law sphere over 2 decades ago because of, frankly, odious and persistent racial discrimination that permeated those institutions, and it's not better today than it was back then. But this is also perpetuated by employers and, big pension funds that require racist gerrymandering, if you will, of the staff that service them at these law firms. So we really have to change these practices throughout. And, the EEOC is tackling discrimination at law firms. I think it's going to be a long haul, but I think ultimately with persistence, we'll be able to level that playing field, Senator.
My time's expired, but it sounds like you don't disagree with the assertion that benevolent motives don't negate the violation of the law at issue.
I would agree, and so would so would the justices of the Supreme Court.
Senator Schiff.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Dhillon, you recently announced